the museum of all museums. It's hard to call this an exaggeration when we're talking about a place that welcomes up to 9 million people every single year, making it the most visited museum on the planet. Today, we are standing in front of its famous glass pyramid to uncover how a medieval fortress turned into a massive treasure chest. And we'll even share a few tips on how not to get lost in its endless corridors. Let's get right into it. Paris itself attracts around 30 million tourists annually, and practically every single one of them ends up in the courtyard right here at least once. The history of the Louvre spans over 8 centuries. Every king, architect, and artist sought to leave their mark on it, expanding or decorating its walls. But it only became a museum on August 10, 1793, during the French Revolution, when it opened as the Central Museum of Arts of the Republic. Back then, it held just about 500 pieces from the royal collections. Today, it owns around 300,000 objects, with about 35,000 on display in the halls. As a result, it would take you at least 200 days to see every single exhibit. Even locals don't have that kind of time. So let's start our journey with a view of the Louvre from the Arc de Triomphe du Carrousel. By the way, we talked all about the fascinating history of this specific arch in our previous episode. So if you missed it, the link is right down in the description. Way back in 1358, King Charles V transformed the Louvre from a medieval fortress into a fortified palace, making it his official residence. 2 centuries later, Francis I, a famous patron of the arts, commissioned the architect Pierre Lecoq to rebuild the old structure in the Renaissance style. And from that point on, the Louvre gradually shifted from a defensive castle into a true royal palace. Here, it's important to note that for over 3 centuries, the story of the Louvre was deeply intertwined with the Tuileries Palace, which stood just to the west. You won't see that palace today, and because its dramatic destruction and the history of the beautiful Tuileries Garden deserve a story of their own, we are actually dedicating our very next video entirely to them. So, make sure to stay tuned for that. King Henry IV originally wanted to combine both the Louvre and the Tuileries into one massive layout. He began building the Grand Galerie along the Seine, a majestic covered walkway spanning nearly half a kilometer. Over time, the Louvre and the Tuileries Palace did connect, forming a single grand palace and park complex that stretched all the way to what is now the Place de la Concorde. However, under Louis XIV, the Sun King, the Louvre lost its status as the main royal residence. The monarch moved his court to Versailles, leaving this massive complex in the center of Paris as a symbol of power, but no longer the home of the king. Whenever later kings did visit Paris, they often preferred staying at the Tuileries Palace instead, finding it much more comfortable and modern for daily life. But the man who truly redefined the Louvre's purpose was Napoleon Bonaparte. As we promised in our previous episode, he turned this place into the ultimate personal trophy room. He even renamed it Musée Napoléon and filled its galleries with thousands of masterpieces looted during his military campaigns across Europe. In fact, he loved the Louvre so much that he even held his grand imperial wedding procession right through its grand halls. The Louvre took on its modern layout after the fire of 1871, when the building was partially burned down during the Paris Commune. On that chaotic May night, fires engulfed almost all public buildings in Paris. However, the authorities later decided that the Louvre, much like the City Hall, simply had to be restored. Then, in 1989, right in the center of the Cour Napoleon, the famous glass pyramid was introduced. Designed by the Chinese-American architect I.M. Pei, it became the ultimate symbol of the modernized museum and contemporary Paris. He crafted a structure out of 673 glass triangles and diamonds, assembled with millimeter precision. Sure, it's not the Eiffel Tower, but it is absolutely fascinating. seamlessly blending the old world with the new. Today, the Louvre is the largest museum in the world. Among its most famous masterpieces are Leonardo da Vinci's Renaissance legend, the Mona Lisa, the ancient Greek sculpture, Venus de Milo, and Delacroix's powerful painting, Liberty Leading the People. We spent nearly an hour wandering through the endless halls just to find these three, and along the way, we walked past hundreds of equally breathtaking masterpieces that you could easily stare at for hours. But what you see on postcards and photos is just a tiny fraction of the Louvre's true wealth. In reality, standing inside this monumental space leaves an even stronger impression. But to truly understand the grand vision of the French kings and emperors, you have to look just outside the Louvre's courtyard, toward a magnificent royal palace that once stood right next to it, but has now completely vanished from the face of the earth. That brings us straight to the tragic, dramatic history of the Tuileries Palace and the famous royal gardens that still survive today. We are exploring that entire story in our very next video, so make sure to hit that subscribe button and stay tuned so you don't miss it. Before you go, drop a comment below. Have you ever been to the Louvre, and did the size of the Mona Lisa surprise you in person? Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next episode, right across the garden.